Hey y'all, it's your girl Narosha, aka Cindy, and we are back here with episode 3 of 6 of my journey to Oxbridge. Today is actually the last episode in part 1 of the series, which is focusing on my personal journey on getting here to Cambridge University, pursuing my MPhil in the Masters in Education, Globalization and International Development. So today's video is going to be about choosing between Oxford and Cambridge, and I really had to make a decision about which one I saw myself thriving in, which one I thought that, would be best for my growth career-wise as well as academic-wise. And it was not an easy decision to make. I accepted both when they came in, and I was like, when the time comes, I'll withdraw from one of them, because I genuinely did not know where my decision was going to go. I was so uncertain about things. And I know this can apply to people that are not just choosing between Oxford and Cambridge, but any two schools that, you really kind of have reasons to go to either one. It's hard to make that decision because, you're afraid if you make the wrong one, are you going to regret it in the future? So, as you may guess, the first thing I looked at was finances, because it has been a huge barrier to my education over the past 2 years, and it was definitely something that I told myself could be a big determining factor. So I was lucky enough that the 2 scholarships I had could apply to either school. So unfortunately that didn't make the decision for me, but the tuition was actually $6,000 cheaper at Oxford than it was at Cambridge. And that for me was a little bit of a motivating factor, because again, for somebody that's financing everything fully on bursaries, scholarships, loans, I knew that $6,000 would have to come from somewhere because my scholarships weren't full scholarships anyways. So I was definitely thinking about that in the back of my mind. Second was the program itself. And this one was almost an easy answer, but I made it more difficult than it needed to be. I was in love with the Cambridge program. From the moment I read the description when I decided to apply, every single part of the course, every module that was broken down into the 3 semesters, I was like, I love this. All my keywords were there: equity, diversity, inclusion, gender, colonialism, decolonization, everything that I was like, I want to study, I want to learn, I am passionate about these topics. It was outlined, and I was like, there's no other perfect place than this program. Now, the Oxford program, it was more so of a comparative analytical program where you're looking at different countries, different case studies, you're looking at the political situation, the social situation, you're really diving into more theory. At least that's what I found from when I read it. But I still told myself, you know what, I made this whole big deal about rejecting Oxford and trying to get back in again, that, I'm gonna apply, and in my head, I was like, I can't turn them down again, right? This was the plan. The plan was always to go to Oxford. So yeah, finances, and then we had the actual program itself, and then assessments. That was pretty important to me because I spent so much of my undergrad being that person that was stressing about grades all the time. I don't even feel like half the time I was learning and I was absorbing knowledge. I was literally studying for the sake of making the grades I needed to keep or get a certain scholarship, to get a certain GPA so that I could get into grad school and get a certain scholarship. Everything was constantly about the numbers, and I really didn't want my 1-year master's to be all about the assignments and the grades. I knew with both I would have to come out with like a 20,000 word thesis, and that was going to take a lot of energy and time because I had never done that before. I am pretty terrified of academia in general, and I've never seen myself being able to be accepted in that space. And so I was really nervous about taking this big chance to be like, I'm going to write a whole dissertation. Like, all the other assignments that were going to come in, I really, needed to be able to manage them while doing something I had never done before. Oxford had so many assignments. It was literally, I want to say there was like 4 or 6 essays, there was an exam, plus your thesis, and I was like, oh my gosh, all in 1 year. And these semesters are so short. Each semester is like 2 months, so it's cram. And I was like, also, if I'm not in love with the modules and the courses, am I going to enjoy writing these essays? Am I going to enjoy studying for this exam? Like, is it going to be just a stressful repeat of my undergrad? Whereas with Cambridge, it was 2 essays and the thesis, and that was absolutely it. And I was like, this sounds a lot more manageable. And within a 10-month period, my program's not even a full year, it's 10 months, I could really develop a strong thesis while just working on 2 essays as well, versus doing 6 plus an exam plus a 20,000 word thesis. And that was something that I weighed a lot as well. The assignments meant something to me because I know how I cave under pressure. I really did not want my graduate experience to be about that anymore. I really wanted to be able to move past this idea of defining my academic abilities by the numbers that I was getting on assignments. So that was a big decision maker for me as well. The fourth thing, which is probably the most important thing to me, was faculty. So I talked to a lot of people that were in their masters, and they told me, you got to do your research on the people that are in that faculty, because those are the people that you're working with. Those are the people that you're developing your ideas with. You're going to be assigned a supervisor. You work closely with them to develop your thesis. And at the master's level, there isn't so much of that hierarchy of like student here, professor here. It really levels out the playing field where you guys are having genuine conversations about your experiences, your lived experiences, your work experience, and you're sharing and you're educating one another. And accomplished, amazing faculty at both schools, Oxford and Cambridge, had great faculty. But what stood out for me at Cambridge was when looking at the faculty, I not only saw a representation that really mattered to me, and that was like South Asian women that were leading researchers in the faculty. And for me, as someone who is a South Asian woman, being able to see that representation and say, wow, at the master's level at a university like University of Cambridge, I can be taught by somebody that looks like me. And for the longest time, I have never been able to see myself as a scholar, as somebody in academia. I think also because half of the stuff I read growing up in the school system, the people that I cited never looked like me to begin with. So I was like, yeah, we don't belong in those spaces, or we don't make it to those spaces. So for me, this was so inspiring to see women that looked like me, that were making their voices heard in the faculty. And then what kind of pushed me over the edge was looking at the research they had done. And it mentioned words, again, like decolonization, like intersectionality, inclusion. And these were all the things that I wanted to bring in to my thesis and into the faculty. A couple other things about this faculty that really, really inspired me was there was a reading group about race, empire, and colonization. I was like, again, this is right up my alley. This is where I want to be. And these resources are already built in. It's not something I need to go into the school and create and fight for the space to have these conversations. It was happening already in the faculty. There's also a center of research here. There was a physical research center just for education, and that was important to me. The facilities were here, right? You have people that are teaching you that are also doing on-the-ground work and research. After examining all of these different aspects, I found myself really leaning towards Cambridge. I was in love with the program. I couldn't deny that. I couldn't deny I was in love with the faculty, with the school itself. It just felt like the right place for me, and it felt like the place where I would be able to thrive and make the noise that I wanted to make in terms of the topics I wanted to address and bring up. I felt like I could do it here. I also, which was amazing, is the fact that in the education faculty, there's different streams, and I'm in the international development stream, but there was an arts and creativity stream. And as a spoken word artist, as somebody that values the arts so much and has learned to see it beyond just a hobby and a passion, I want to incorporate the arts into my thesis. That was a big thing. And I know at institutions like Oxford and Cambridge, you might be like, oh, no way, that's never gonna happen. They're not gonna let you change up the way that you write a thesis because it is so structured and so institutionalized that you can't really shake things up. But I spoke to so many students from both programs, and when I said, I'm looking at being able to incorporate spoken word into my thesis, and they're like, oh yeah, you can totally do that in this faculty. Oh yeah, we have a whole stream on it, and we have people that specialize in it, and people that research on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, again, the place for me to be an artist, to be a researcher, to be an academic, and to be an advocate. I could do all of that in this faculty, and that for me just felt like the right place. And even though it was a little bit more expensive and I would have to be taking on a little bit more loans to do this, I had to make that choice. I had to choose me, and I had to choose my passions. A place that I not only felt proud to be at, but a place that I felt valued at. And I felt like my knowledge, the assets I was bringing, was going to be acknowledged within the space. So that is why I chose Cambridge, because it was just the place I was supposed to be at. It took everything in me to open up my email, and like I actually had it on my to-do list for so long, being like, withdraw from Oxford. And my friends and my family were like, are you gonna withdraw? Like, you do know you chose Cambridge. I was like, yeah. But I was so nervous to send that email and withdraw for the second time, because I was like, I'm in their black books. They're never gonna let me back in their school. Like, I took up this spot, and now I'm saying I don't want to after I made this whole case on why I wanted to get back in again. But honestly, you gotta do what's best for you. At the end of the day, it was what was best for me to go to Cambridge. So I sent the email, I officially withdrew for the second time, and I decided I was going to Cambridge. Now, of course, during this time period, COVID hit, and I was like, okay, maybe this is gonna last a month. Okay, maybe 2 months. And here we are, almost a year later, and COVID is still here, the pandemic is still here. Everything was running through my mind. Am I gonna get stuck there? Am I not gonna be able to go there? Is everything gonna be online? Am I paying the same price for an online education? So many fears that I think everybody that was a student at that time also had. And is it worth it? And what is my experience going to be like? For me, it was definitely a difficult decision. One, because I was going to go abroad to another country. I was going to be paying in a currency that was a lot more higher than my currency and stronger. So it was a lot of money on the line. I would not be getting that full Cambridge experience because, you know, not everything is open on campus. I don't have access to everything that I would have had last time. Networks, the conferences, the ability to kind of mingle and make the relationships that you want to make are hindered. It's not the exact same doing it online. So of course, a lot of people at that point in time were thinking about deferring their offers for a year. For my master's, Oxford and Cambridge both were not allowing students to defer. And I would have to reapply again. These video series would have been a lot longer because I would have done this 3 times now. And I was like, do I really want to put myself through this all over again? I went through a whole year of reapplying. I would lose my scholarships because my scholarships would only put on hold for me if I could get a deferral, but the schools weren't giving out deferrals. So I was like, okay, I have to pursue my master's this year. Whether I like it or not, I can't guarantee to myself that I will get this funding again. I also realized that if I did decide to withdraw again and apply next year, I could very much be applying to the same situation, which it almost seems like we're in again, where I think a lot of people that are applying right now have the mindset that next year might also be remote. Like, there's a good potential that, you know, things are not going to change enough for campuses to open back up fully within the next year as well. So it was one of those reality checks where I'm like, how long am I going to wait? So if that doesn't work out next year, I'm going to wait another year, and how long am I going to put off doing this master's when I know it's something I need to jumpstart my career? Of course, coming here was a difficult decision to make, but then it was made for me because the university said it was mandatory to come here. Unless your country had restrictions where you genuinely could not travel, or again, you had a health condition where you could not come here, you had to be on campus or living off campus, but within the perimeters. And so they made the decision for me, saying you had to be here. And obviously, pros and cons in that. Like, cons, you're spending a whole lot of money to live here and do your classes remotely. But the positive is that I got to engage now in class discussions. I get to be here on the same time zone as my peers and the same time zone as my faculty. I can have meetings with them. I have had in-person meetings. I've been able to meet up with people in my faculty. I am here and I can access the library in my college. I can go in places that you can go study. There is spaces that are socially distant. So there's a lot of things that they are doing to try and accommodate students to the best of their ability. It is a difficult time. It's something that the school has never had to deal with before. Students have never had to deal with, nor faculty. So we're all learning and trying as we go about it. So it has been quite a wild ride, but it has been worth coming here, even though I didn't really have a decision in coming here. But it has been worth it for me. So yeah, that is why I chose Cambridge. So thank you all for listening. I am so excited to start coming out with the resources to support the community. So take care, lots of love, and always, always big up yourself.